Classic Wrath of the Lich King beta has been talked about. Some stuff's hit the CDN. I would not expect it to be playable by us soon, based on what Holly has said, though. And we have some interesting things from the Holly interview. So she said, we're really excited to get Wrath on beta in the next 2 to 3 months. It's important to us because some of the changes we're thinking about making will be informed by the community. So July through to August is our release window for that beta test. Now that says to me is, combined with Ian saying the Dragonflight stuff is soon, Dragonflight could be in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and
if it was in the next few weeks and the expansion came out towards the tail end of Q1 next year, that would be a longer alpha and beta than most. Usually like 6 to 7 months. So that would be a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, I think if I were Blizzard, I would definitely go for a longer alpha and beta because so much of Shadowlands' problems, and well, okay, what they say is that so many problems were like not picked up during alpha and beta, which I think I categorically disagree with because of the amount of feedback they
when did they say that?
Did they say that? I mean, it's not literally say, but it's like more the idea. They always kind of go, well, oh, you know, stuff. That's what the alpha and beta is for. So I think less them saying that, more logically following. If alpha and beta is to pick up problems, and they weren't picked up, then ostensibly then a longer alpha and beta means
I feel
by
like
their logic a better game.
Some of that for them is just they've hit feature lock.
Yeah.
And now they can't really change things, even in the face of criticism, which then seems really baffling to players. But I mean, I imagine it's just different in their end somehow, in some way, or else it wouldn't make sense for them to sabotage their own game. Yeah, hard to know. But anyway, I'd expect to see Dragonflight before Wrath, maybe.
Almost certainly.
The testing, anyway.
Yeah, well, it's weird because it's up on the CDN. So you'd imply that that's kind of earlier, but it could just sit up there because there's less, I guess, less risk of putting it up there. Because obviously, as soon as anyone can get anywhere near a Dragonfly client, Stephen and Marleman are going to go crazy.
Yeah,
and that'll just be like that's when the floodgates open, and they need to be super on top of PR and feedback and stuff like that, because any amount of data mining will just kind of immediately spark articles and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, man, interesting stuff. Now, Holly went on to talk about a little bit of changes, just talking about being...
yeah, it's like what we learned from the beta and what the players want is like, that's interesting because I don't know how much of that happened for Classic beta and TBC. I literally don't know. I'm not making a judgment, I'm saying I don't know. So this implies to me that they're trying to go for something a bit different,
I think
especially when it comes to the no dungeon finder and stuff and seeing how that actually feels on beta.
There's a little bit, but during TBC, people were generally happy because of the raid buff, the world buffs for raid thing. Oh, the chromies, whatever the hell the item's called.
Time thing.
Yeah, people were like happy enough about that, so I think there was like generally more positive feelings. Of course, until they go and announce the freaking pass. On the topic of gold buying, Holly said they have an entire risk team dedicated to botting, gold selling, anything against the play nice, play fair principle. So,
that was
they have a risk team. I never doubted that.
Yeah,
I think it's just the scope of the problem.
Yeah, that's what I think is interesting. Is it wasn't Kevin, or wasn't Holly said it was Kevin, the senior software engineer.
Oh,
I think,
okay.
But the same interview. But I thought that was interesting because that's like a kind of we literally have a team doing this. You're like, you might need a team for each of your games at this point because they're very different problems and they're clearly not solving them quick enough. But I thought that was like one highlight that I thought was interesting. It's like, okay, of course, you've got problems and you need to solve them, but they're not getting solved. I think Kevin went on to talk about how like it's a really difficult arms race between them and the tools that like their enemies are using, which completely makes sense. But it's like, goddamn, it really does like I think it hurts Classic so much more obviously than live, especially because gold's so much more valuable and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now the Classic beta has actually hit the CDN, but again, like with what Holly said, don't expect to play it soon. That said, it's always nice to have our login screen dragon.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, except didn't exactly play back fully well there, did it? That was a bit scuffed.
Yeah, sure did not. But that was fun. Yeah. I really like this. At the time, people got annoyed because they would just have a humongous roar every like 20 seconds after they logged in.
Yeah.
But then a funny thing is, of course, with the new sign-on process, the Battle.net app, so many people are not going to hear Syndra Ghost roar.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the experience gone.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that too much. I mean, I suppose what do? You log in, you AFK so long that you get booted out back to the thing. You've got the reconnect button, but you just sit looking at it. Sandra goes,
no, just a 20-second anticipation timer.
Yeah.
As soon as you log in from BNet.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Some achievements, of course, have been down to mind. Really, it's just all around first, so hardly really a surprise.
Yeah.
Now, there are achievements here relating to the Dungeon Finder, but I'm fairly sure that's just remnants.
Yeah, that's
Given what they've said.
Yeah, another thing that as either Holly or Kevin was saying in the interview was like it is a lot more difficult than you might assume to just kind of fire this stuff up, because they have so much work to do getting all of the, because they have all the data like they had for late Classic, they recovered it, and for TBC, but they have to massage so many things to get the 3.35 experience to feel like a 3.0 in terms of what content's available. So I'm assuming that's just that thing of, okay, there's loads of achievements, and that's like the kind of manual stuff they have to tune out. So I think Dakor posited there's achievements from Kata and onwards in there. So literally you just need to go, okay, we need to do the grunt work of getting rid of all of the achievements that don't belong in 3.0, and then we'll add them back in with the releases, stuff like that.
Oh man, that's a lot of work.
That's the thing. It sounded, whenever they were talking about it, it sounded like it's a lot of grunt work. Not even like super like interesting technical problem solving. It's literally just, we have to go and make sure this is like launch, which means we have to watch a load of videos and put up the reference client. Fuck's sake. Brutal stuff.
Yeah, so look, there you go.
Yeah.
Sunwell just came out. I think it was cleared actually like an hour later.
56 minutes? 52 minutes?
Hardly a
Something like
surprise.
Yeah.
Surprise.
There was a lot of shit posting about Muru being like the hardest boss ever. And then I think there was like a pushback that was bug fixed. But also it's like, what do you expect? This game's been solved. It'll get slightly less solved over time. But especially when you look at the first 3 expansions, that's where all the P servers were.
Yeah.
That's where everyone knows everything in and out to the degree that they do. So of course that was going to fall over in less than an hour. But at least they had a worldwide release, if I believe correctly. And that's
really?
why... Yeah, Kevin was talking about that in the interview as well. Just like, yeah, they have the ability to just go, because their phase release, they just go, button, there you go. And that's, everyone has it, because it was the old school, the Chinese guild one. And the Chinese guilds usually have a really, I can't remember the time, but they're very off in terms of like the modern releases and retail releases. So interesting that they actually won that one.
But neat. What I'm most interested in is, what does the Classic Plus?
Yeah.
That stuff that Towley was talking about, what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
Because they didn't really talk much about that during BlizzCon, or really talk about it at all, or in the interviews. I
think they don't want to overstate that at all until it's like actually done. And they'll maybe try to like, it's not boil the frog, because that's inherently a bad thing, but I think they want to like tiptoe, like put their toes in the water, but like, okay, here's a little bit. Do you like this? Do you like what we're doing? And then that. But then it also is I don't know how much of their plans are for early Wrath, because based on what Ian was talking about, in terms of like where they could go after, I think internally they're probably talking about what happens when, Ruby Sanctum's finished. What happens when Lich King's done? What do we do after that? That's probably where they're honestly thinking about it.
Yeah, I feel like they'll want to have some massive announcement. Like something really proper they can bring to people that will, it won't be surprising, but it'll be like big, major, something people really care about, instead of just, and we're going to continue with Cataclysm. Also, please check out the latest season of whatever. Right, so I think they'll try to do something. It just makes sense. And I mean, it is what I would want them to do. I think I would like a larger chunk of that game that's more supported and less solved.
Yeah, I think that's the thing we've kind of run into with Classic. I think the people who love it really love it, but they're like a niche compared to what I think they expected. Compared to like the amount of people who dabbled in Classic the first time. That was clearly an explosive launch for them. Versus TBC kind of falling off a little bit. And Wrath maybe have that explosive like initial interest, but will that engagement stick around like probably did in the past? Or
they could be spooked by TBC.
I imagine so.
Yeah, but I guess TBC did have such a negative just wave of everything around its launch, like the Dark Portal price passing. Pricing. Just like a few other things, like the server populations, right? Like Yeah, TBC's had a bit of a rough time.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that I think it was Holly said in the interview, talking about like why they aren't going for TBC era, because they don't want to split their user base 3 ways. That's literally what she said. So obviously that classic era stuff, they just go, oh well, people who like classic won't go into TBC, so TBC's smaller, and that impacts the server communities and the size and all of the like people engaging with our new product. Like, fuck that thing.
Right, so the TBC servers turn into Wrath, and then TBC's gone.
Yep, that's the plan. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would they do a TBC season?
I don't.
Season of whatever?
I don't think that's hard confirmed. I think Holly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's hard confirmed, but I know Holly was kind of talking about like the possibility of season of mastery stuff again. As to whether that'll be TBC or not, I'm not super sure.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Huh. That's strange because there's some people who really just want to play TBC.
Yeah, but I
Right.
think they'd rather have those people playing Wrath,
Yeah, that does
so
make sense.
they can be fodder for other people playing Wrath. Especially if they're going for no dungeon finder, you definitely need a bigger community for that. Then,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and even the likes of Wintergrasp to work without having to use loads of buffs and stuff.
Yep.
Like, just a better experience for more people.
Yep, for sure.
Oh, right. Well, look, I look forward to it, especially whatever changes they make. Especially if they're sort of aimed towards longevity, towards the end of Wrath. I think there could be interesting stuff.